This is the picture of the Southfield the property at Southfield. See if I can, where's the, is it coming from over here? That doesn't work very well. This is the property at Southfield. This is what they're talking about. We don't believe this looks like an urban village. You can see, I know they're going to do a small sign, but the flags that are flying, the open flags here, they have currently they have temporary signs that are in the median. Again, it's very reflective. I don't know if you can really tell, but there's the large billboard right here that exists. We believe these things don't fit within the urban village model. This is a picture of an example of a 6-inch median that we believe, again, is not going to serve the purpose that they provide and will only create additional hazards to people driving down Piermont. There is a left-hand turn lane. We're not sure how this is going to follow the left-hand turn lane and, again, how it will prevent people, but it will only create an additional hazard. While I was waiting, I wanted to pull up a Google map. Technology is wonderful. I was looking at a Google map. This is currently, as of right now, shows the traffic issues at that intersection. And if you're familiar with Google, they actually show the red as being in high traffic, high issues. You can see where it stops. It stops right at the Circle K right now. We're afraid as they move down Piermont, this red line will continue down Piermont. And again, that's what's going to impact the residents of Piermont. I know my time is up, and I will wind up quickly. We hear y'all talk about precedents being set in other cases. We would hope that you would consider that this would be furthering precedents that aren't necessarily the case. Changes to the nature of the neighborhood, we heard that earlier. Again, the orientation is one of the things that we've asked. We believe they're not going to look at alternatives unless they have to. And what we're asking is that you ask them, there is a solution out there. There's a solution that works for Circle K, and there's a solution that works for the neighborhood. We just haven't found it yet. We've been asking, and we're asking you to help us seek that solution. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. LeBlanc. Anybody else have a question for him? I have a question. So am I hearing...
I knew somebody would.
Of course I would. Am I hearing that from the neighbors or from you, or if you can even speak on this, that if the orientation was turned around toward line, I'm hearing from them it would affect the buffer and the landscaping, and they can't do it, so they have to orient it toward Piermont. But I hear the neighbors saying, no, put it toward line, and we're okay with it, but then it affects the landscaping and the buffer, and you guys understandably so have an issue with that. So what is the answer?
I think there's a couple of things that can be solved. I think the orientation has a great impact on, and this is showing the current zoning right now. And I think this is from the zoning map of their application, by the way. And I think the orientation would play a big part. Right now on Line Avenue, all your commercial activity is on Line Avenue. Even with the CVS, all the activity, they don't have gas pumps, so your activity is not outside in the parking lot. There's no buffer. If they would orient the store towards Line Avenue, I think all your activity would remain on Line Avenue instead of turning the corner and going down Piermont.
I understand that, but in order to accommodate to get a larger store,
yes, ma'am.
I think everybody has a right to expand and grow,
sure.
And it's got benefits too. They can't accommodate the neighborhood in the buffer zone, putting it online. That's what I'm hearing. Am I hearing incorrectly? But they can't accommodate the other need of having that landscaping buffering between those.
We think they can.
And get the size, which they're not doing a super size. They're doing a moderate to small size.
This is an example that we took a store. If you'll look, and I don't know, can you zoom in on that for me, please? We took this is the existing intersection of Line Avenue and Piermont. We took a store that currently exists in Bossier right now and overlaid it on top of their existing properties. So if they were able to acquire the Winder Turk property and the zoning was changed and they were able to develop, this is an example of a store that currently exists in Bossier that would overlay on that property and face
But there-
Line Avenue.
Is that the rental, that's the R3 or whatever, right there?
This is the R3.
That's the rental property or
Right,
whatever
so
we're
let
talking about.
me do this. Let me see if I can do this. So the R3, you see where the R3 is now?
There's no, but in that, in that property, I don't see a buffer between the back of the Circle K and that R3. It's not R3. What is that?
This one,
Stephen?
again, from what I can tell, this is your residential property right now, okay? No? Am I looking at it wrong?
Yeah. Yeah, the residential is here.
I think they took out the R3.
I guess to answer your question, it is, we believe it's possible.
Okay, but I don't see any buffer between them. But
Again,
thank you.
yes, I mean, we believe, as Ms. Rossbottom said so eloquently, we can put a man in the moon. We can find a solution to this.
Yeah, but sometimes the solutions are economically not sound or feasible.
It's going to
Sometimes, too.
require compromises
Yeah.
on both sides. And I think that's one of the things that we're trying to reach, is to find that solution that meets the needs of both parties. The only thing I will leave you with is, on this application, it actually does show a B1 buffer zone between the CVS and the residential property. I'm sorry, the Rite Aid, I keep calling CVS the Rite Aid, and this is their application, it shows a B1 buffer. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Remedies?
I just had a comment. Just keep in mind that if they came and proposed that to us, that our audience would be filled with the folks that live on that street, because we just dealt with them on another development. So just because we make it someone else's problem doesn't make it any easier for us. Just keep that in mind.
I'm not following you, I'm sorry.
If we move it down someone else, we only shift the,
If we move it down line, you're saying? If they
Yes.
move,
Oh,
if
I'm
they
sorry, I'm
could.
sorry.
There'll be someone else that's unhappy with it, so that's not necessarily the end all.
I would come in support of that, and I very rarely guarantee things, but I would almost guarantee that you would have less opponents of that than you do of this. And sometimes it's choosing the lesser of the evils, and I understand, but I think you would have,
Well, they don't own
you would have
the
more
property, so
support
it's not
for that.
allowed.
I think.
Consider it.
And I just wanted you to keep
No,
that.
I understand, And we're not proposing, this isn't a not my backyard issue. We're not proposing that we push the issue somewhere else. What we're trying to say is, commercially, Line Avenue is the commercial corridor, Piermont is primarily residential corridor. Let's try to keep the commercial development in a commercial corridor. That's all we're asking. Thank you.
Okay, anybody else in opposition that would like to add?
Madam Chair, while they're coming, may I have a comment?
Of course.
Because our next gentleman is quite learned, and he will probably take it. When we did the SPI 6 district, it was my original belief that we were not going to extend it beyond Line Avenue, and it was the request of the city council person, I believe, that we take it all the way down to Dillingham, which opened up that whole transition
Exactly.
corridor. And it was not our desire to go that far, but it was
Yeah.
thrust upon us to go that far with the
Special
SPI
public
district,
interest in
which
new district.
might be in conflict with the master plan in its
Hearing.
totality. So we were kind of forced into that box to do it early. We actually did not want to do the SPI district. We wanted to wait till the UDC came out to fix the problem, and we were kind of forced into that direction. So
City council.
the city council kind of pushed us to go that direction. So we wanted to wait to the UDC, resolve that issue, but we were kind of quite forcefully urged to take it upon ourselves. So just keep that in mind. And when we talk about the conflict between the SPIC, because it really is, in my opinion, with the master plan, at least to some degree. I don't know if that rambling made any sense, but to me,
Well,
to
we're going to have to
me-
explain. I don't think she was on the board at the time, so we'll explain that during deliberation.
I understand the overlay thing, but
Okay.
don't know how that affects our ability to approve or not approve a switch from a B1 to a B2.
What we were dealing with the SPI was we were looking at a transitional corridor from I-49 to I-80. That was the corridor that we were originally looking at for the SPI 6. It was upon the urging of the city council that we did take it all the way to Dillingham. And we actually voted and were not wanting to do it. We were wanting to postpone it to let the UDC to solve the problem, because it's coming. And we were urged to take it up and go ahead and move forward with it expeditiously, so we did. So that's all I wanted to say about that.
Hello, how are you?
I'm Havard Scott. I live at 1049 Southfield Road, Shreveport 71106. I was here for the SBI 6, and I think you're right. I think what happened was the city council wanted to make sure they included the intersection of Line and Piermont. So instead of taking it to the edge of Circle K property, they just went to the next street. But I think you're right about that. Look, I'm not as directly affected by this as obviously the people that live in the 700 block of Piermont are. And I have been to all of their meetings, and there's not a single person on that stretch of Piermont that's in favor of this. I don't know where the 125 people that Mr. Peters found came from, but I think you ought to look carefully at that list and see what their addresses are. See if they're on Piermont. See if they're in the immediate area. My concern is a little bit closer to I-49. I live in the block of Southfield Road between Fairfield and Southern. I own most of the interior blocks there. It happens to be my backyard. I'm one of the very fortunate people that lives in South Highlands that has almost 3.5 acres of backyard. The SBI 6 came about because of several zoning changes, speculative zoning changes that people were asking for in the 1,000 block of Piermont. Where they were cutting down trees and getting them all ready to build on, and then coming here and asking you to change something from residential to business without any site plan, without any customer, without anybody to build. They just wanted to make a quick buck on the property. I think Councilman Jenkins came up with the SPI thing to solve that problem. And it maybe does go a little further than it should have. But I back up to all of the properties on the north side of Piermont between Fairfield and Southern. So everybody, look, Circle K, they want to build, this is going to be a mega store. They want to almost triple the size of the store. They want to raise the canopies to 19 feet. They say 4 gas pumps, but let's count both sides of those gas pumps, so there's really 8. They've got 6 now. I go there 3-4 times a week. It's a charming little store. I'm probably one of their better customers. I buy almost all of my gas there. Probably $500 or $600 a month comes from Circle K. The store is fine. There's nothing wrong with it currently as it exists. What's going to happen with tripling the size of the store is it's going to be a beacon. And Circle K isn't going to spend all this money on this store because they're not trying to attract additional people. And by attracting additional people, they're now going to compete with the Chevron that's on the corner of St. Vincent and Piermont, or Hollywood, as it's called at that point. And the traffic's going to all come down to Line Avenue. It's already at 5 o'clock every day. It's already backed up all the way from the interstate to Dillingham. And it's just going to make it worse. I'll just point out access to economic center. We all have access to an economic center. I don't see any overwhelming benefit to this community, and it certainly looks to me to be in conflict with the master plan. I know one of the real estate brokers for Circle K was on the master plan committee, and I just don't see how this serves as an urban village. It took me a while to figure out what an urban village was, but I don't think what they want to do is an urban village. By the way, I turned around when you asked for a show of hands in support of Circle K. The people that stood were either Lamar Advertising, the real estate brokers on this sale for Circle K, or Circle K and their attorney.
But they have an equal vote too.
So I just point out that your residents, your neighbors, the people that live there, which I think has always entered probably first and foremost in y'all's determinations, the people that live there say no. I would hope you would listen to them. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Scott. Any questions for Mr. Scott? Anybody else in opposition?
The last one.
10-minute.
Before we begin, does anybody want to like stand up and take a break?
Hey, that's my job.
That's fine. I just want to tell you that I don't mind if y'all want to stretch. So,
The gentleman that wants 10 minutes, correct?
yes, I am the 10-minute speaker. And
right.
so we're getting to that end, and I hope I entertain you, wake you up. I know it's been a long haul. I am Trey Gibson. I live in 5166 Towel Lane in Bossier City, 71111. You might ask, why is somebody from Bossier City talking about this? Well, this is the reason. That is my mother that spoke up here. You should be very, very, everybody should applaud my mother. She is the person that is scared to death of public speaking. I promise you her hands were shaking and her heart rate was racing. This is in her backyard, and those are those are her grandkids, my kids, that stay with her. So I have a complete vested interest in this, and you know, she's there by herself. My dad died back in 1997, and so I am speaking largely on her behalf. Let me begin with really summing up the case, and I want to start off with the reason why we're here today. Tim Peters got up here and pointed out that we've been brought back because of a mistake, but I think it's fortuitous because C.S. Lewis wrote that we all want progress, but if you're on the wrong road, progress means doing an about turn and walking back to the right road. In that case, the man or woman who turns back soonest is the most progressive, and I think turning Circle K down for this project in its current situation is actually the most progressive decision, because Circle K is making two big fallacies in their reasoning in front of you today. I'm an argumentation professor, I'm a public speaking professor, so I know a lot about fallacies. The first fallacy is the fallacy of the false choice, because they create this implication that it's either them or nothing. As Meg got up here and told you, there are other people out there whose rent is too high in their current business location that might be interested in moving in. Mr. Winder did not advertise this position. Circle K went there. And in fact, Circle K went and offered him this money shows you it's a prime location, even in its current condition. The second fallacy is the fallacy of faulty analogies, because he gets up here, and this is going to play an important role. I know you're not interested in hearing the 24-hour deal, but the fact of the matter is he tells you about all of these other B2 businesses that butt up against neighborhoods or residences. He did not name a single one that is actually a 24-hour business, and that is the implication of your vote. Even though discussing the 24 hours is not part of this hearing and part of your decision, it will become an implication of your decision. And I hope you understand that, because this is a convenience store and it brings big problems when it's sitting next to a residence. And I do want to address that really quickly. The first implication is the idea that you've got people at all hours of the night next to a residence opening and closing their car doors. I live in a really safe neighborhood, but when somebody opens and closes their car doors in the neighborhood, I jump up out of bed for security reasons. And when you've got families that are living nearby and literally right next door, you're going to end up with a situation where it could disturb sleep cycles and everything else, and so there is an impact on people. But furthermore, let me give you another implication of the 24-hour store. You heard from Margaret Rossbottom. Margaret Rossbottom, this is the view from the Circle K, I guess the most east exit way from the Circle K in its proposed development. This is her house, and so you see all these windows right there. Well, I took this during the daytime because at night it would have been really difficult to see. This is a car turning out of Circle K. Now, Circle K is going to get up here and tell you, oh, they're going to be elevated, so the car is going to be facing down. But when a car turns out of that parking lot and actually turns down east towards Piermont, they're going to have to cross the road, and notice that car, if its headlights were on, would be beaming directly in Margaret Rossbottom's house. And that's inappropriate. I mean, that's where we get to the idea of why we have a B1. And that's the ultimate reason why I want you to realize this. This is why we have a B1, because hours of operation become crucially important in this decision. Let me move on and let me talk about a couple of other issues. The second thing is that we look at the crime issues, and I think Meg makes a big point about this. And certainly the numbers that she gave you were Shreveport Police Department numbers. I mean, I took them and I actually created a brief on them so you could see it. But we actually had a listing out of what the crimes were. Well, the comparison there, and the reason why this is important, is he brought in Rite Aid. He wants to say we're no different than Rite Aid. Rite Aid gets to do this, why can't we? But when you look at Rite Aid didn't ask for that that variance. Rite Aid didn't go 24-hour. They're operating from 7 to 10, as are all of the other businesses there, and their crime rates are much lower, which means they have less of a negative impact than the current Circle K does. And so I hope that that can come into your decision. Furthermore, we need to look at the idea of why we vote. Circle K has a burden of proof in this. They need to prove that they are having a beneficial impact on the community. So I ask you, what is that beneficial impact? Are they going to hire a few more people? So what? So will the next business that comes in. Are they going to make the place beautiful? Sure, but so will another group that comes in, and we will push that as well. Are they going to cover less space? So what? I mean, the next organization that comes in may do that too, and we will work with them, especially if we've got somebody that already may be interested. So they are not the only choice. But let's talk about that space issue. This is where I hope to answer some things better than because I created this, Cliff didn't. Here is the Circle K on the corner of Brownlee and Airline right now. High traffic area. I walked it off, so my measurements are completely inappropriate. I hope they don't think I was casing the joint for robbery or anything else like that. It was kind of, a little anxiety when I was doing this. But this is roughly 2,400 square feet. Mr. Peters got up here and claims that they're on the small size. Absolutely wrong, because when you look at the numbers, when he got up here and told us what a traditional store is, a traditional store, his words, was 2,500 to 3,000 square feet. So this would be a traditional store. His is 3,200 square feet. And so one of the things we would ask him is, you know what, go to a traditional size store around the 2,500 square feet, then there are opportunities there. That's where we look to that picture, and I've got to find it really quickly. I've created a disorganization now out of this. And again, this is not perfectly to scale, but when you look to this picture, this is their current development, which makes them have to go here. This is not something we caused for them. This is their own development that's causing this situation. They are making a financial decision what's best for them. There's no decision here what's best for the community. And I would ask you, if they've got the burden of proof to actually create a development that's good for the community and have benefits for the community, then why is their back pocket the only thing that we would consider here? Well, if you actually look at this development, and again, this is not to scale. I just did my best job to eyeball it here. But this actually, at a 2,400 square foot, could actually work in here. When you talk about the easement, I mean, we could move this here, there, and yonder. I'm sure there's ways to do it. It's funny how they can ask variances for everything else, but they can't ask for a variance to make this easier here. I think the neighbors might consider it. We still have 24-hour issues. We'll discuss that at another meeting. But this is actually the current property that they would be destroying. So when you talk about buffer, this is actually B1 at this point in time. A store could come in here. Somebody could turn this in just like Rhino's Coffee did. Somebody could turn this into a business without any problem and be the right appropriate hours for a B1, and it would still be the buffer. And so I hope that answers your question there. Let me go back to the petition argument really quickly and sum that up. The reason why the petition argument is so important is Mr. Peters said, oh, they've got some 100 signatures. I think Havard was great in pointing out where did they come from. Quite frankly, as we look at who's here, and you made a good point that their vote counts, in terms of what Circle K has in terms of behind them, but they've got a financial interest in this situation. These people here have a life interest in that situation. So I would think that the people on 700 Piermont alone, and if you look at this map, every single person that is living at 700 Piermont, including these people here who live in the apartment that's going to be torn down and didn't know it was going to be torn down, they all support not doing this development as it is. And so I would hope that that would weigh in. Now, what does this mean for you? Two things. One, they've got the burden of proof to show benefit. I think that's really simple. They haven't done it because when it comes down to it, Circle K has said they can't. But every time they say they can't, it's solely because of their back pocket. My question to you is, ask this question. Does the current Circle K in its location make a profit? So how much more profit do we have to make? I mean, where is the bright line on the amount of profit a store needs to make before the residents are considered? And I think that's simple. The master plan is certainly important in that. Secondly, the easiest vote for you is to actually side with the current boundaries. And the reason why is because there's already this social contract with the people. The B1 zoning is there on paper. And that's why they have that burden to overcome. I love the fact that we've got someone here that was involved in the master planning. I mean, there was a reason why it was created the way it is. And so I ask for you to uphold that social contract between citizens and the government. Remember, Abe Lincoln said, of the people, by the people, for the people. That's exactly what the master plan is. It was made by the people, for the people, and I hope you'll uphold that. And with that, I stand down. I welcome any last questions.
Thank you, Mr. Gibson. Anybody have any questions?
Please ask me questions. I love questions.
Okay, I'll ask you a question, Mr. Gibson.
Sure.
Chair, if I may.
Sure, please.
Would you please put the picture back up where you showed a different configuration of what y'all say will fit?
Yes. And again, this is a picture of the store.
Go back to the other one.
And then there's this. And
Point the
again,
location with your finger where it would be, Circle K would be.
where the
Your vision
Over
of
on
Circle
that.
K.
Oh, it's
Upper right
this
hand.
one,
Very
right
good.
here. And notice it points out this way. And that is, to my best eyeball, again, not specific measurements, but I think it's pretty darn close.
And the property right behind it is
That is the current building they're going to
That is the
tear down,
fourplex.
that is a fourplex.
Is the fourplex or is it the
That's the
dermatology?
current, that's the fourplex. They would be taking the dermatology place.
okay.
And
This
they would
is
be
the
taking
fourplex that they would destroy.
The fourplex is not
Yeah.
being taken.
I mean, notice this is what their plans are, and again, it's eyeballed. Notice I've got the sidewalks meeting here and the sidewalks meeting here, and so that's
How
why
are
I
you
think.
proposing that there's division between that building, the Circle K build, and the fourplex? Because there would have to be some landscaping and some things.
Well, notice that you've got, first off, all this landscaping that they're proposing right now.
No, I'm talking
right
about
there,
the
for starters.
fourplex in the back of that building that you propose.
The back of the
Yes, the
building,
back
like right
line.
here.
It's just right next to that fourplex.
You know what? Number one, and I will use Tim Peters' argument, that's what variances are for, okay? I think there is a possibility to make it happen. I won't go the man-on-the-moon route with it, but the point is that this is actually a B1 property. You will at least have some separation between car door slamming, music coming in. I still oppose the 24-hour. I mean, that's something we're going to fight anyway because there are residents living here. And so you're still going to have a fight, I think, on the family's hands. But the bottom line is that we can put a building there. I mean, this is a 2,500, 2,400 square foot building. Their current building is roughly 1,000, 1,200 square feet, something like that. So this is almost doubling the size that they have. If they went 2,000 square feet, I think you would definitely have that. And so if we really look at a proposition, a 2,000 square foot building would be more appropriate. They get to increase. And I mean, now, looking at this building,
I mean, we don't know their financials and all what they have to do, so, I mean,
true. But looking at this building, this still fails to meet the SPI 6. I mean, it's still got design issues and all those kinds of things.
But that's
and we'd
not the
have to sit
building
down
they're
and talk about it.
proposing.
Well, this is the building that I got, the site that I got off of Google, Earth,
right.
and so to use as an example there. So, bottom line is that
I'll get you, Nancy.
even then, in the consideration, even if you just said no to all of this, number one, you've got the piece of paper to fall back on because B1, B2 zoning is very specific. It should not, in fact, the B2 zoning itself says that if you're less than 300 feet away from a residential house, you have to operate between these hours. That is one of the reasons why Mr. Peter, did not get up here and talk about 24 hours aside from your reasons.
Yeah, we don't-
Because there are the implications of it. And his operation, by your vote, will start the snowball of potentially having this business be a 24-hour within 30 feet of where people live, 150 feet to the first single residence, and yes, all the way down the block, as my mother mentioned, she's within 300 feet now of the proposed business. So the
Mind you,
safest thing would be to say
ZBA
no.
could not, the ZBA is going to hear this, the 24, if they go
Yes, but they don't-
24,
they
but
don't really
can
have
decide
to if
for
you-
or against it.
They don't have to hear it, because after all, Circle K has told us, and Mr. Peters can get up here and tell you, that if they're not 24 hours, they're not going to do this. So if you vote against the zoning change, then they're not going to get the 24 hours. If you vote against this, they're not going to get the 24 hours. The ZBA becomes a moot point. And another reason why that's important is because these are families, but these are working people. This is Mr. Peters' job to get up here and be here at the zoning meetings, the MPC, the ZBA. These people have been taking off work, and it's hard. And so when we look at the number of people that are here today, that number would double, triple if it weren't for the fact that people have got to work. And so that you would make the world easier if you just fall back on the piece of paper and what it says.
Ms. Cooper?
I was just going to ask about that proposal that you had up there with the other Circle
bet.
K. No, from the aerial view, yeah.
You bet. And let me expressly say, this is less than a proposal,
right,
than an argument that says it could be
Right,
done.
that's what I was going to ask you. Is that actually more of a proposed compromise, not what you would ideally pick if you had your way?
Well, first off, no, it's not ideally if we had our way or
Right.
anything like that. We have said from the very start with Circle K is that we believe that their project is way too big because it does have all of these implications on the neighborhood and the neighbors. For example, if you notice here is where the exit is. This is Miss Rossbottom's house, and so when cars turn onto Piermont to head down this way, that was the picture I showed y'all. Car lights are going to be shining right into her house at all hours of the night.
We would have that with the B1 too.
No, because you do not have the hours of operation with these two places. And that's something that is so important as Mr. Peters gets up here, because as Meg pointed out, we don't have another rebuttal. One of the faulty analogies that he talks about is he gets up here and says, well, you're going to have these problems with these places too. Wrong. These hours of Mr. Winder's, well, okay, it's up here, but Mr. Winder's actual place, I think he closes at 5. So people are not going in and out of his parking lot at noon or at midnight or at 2 a.m. in the morning. The current families do not have the problems that Circle K will create. And I think that's important to understand.
So this one is an expansion of the property, but it's just not as much of an expansion.
Absolutely.
Okay,
Yes.
and so-
And again, that's eyeballed. I'm not an architect.
Is that still all B2s or?
Well, I would hope that this would stay at the very least B1 because this
Okay.
is currently B1.
Okay, so the property as you have proposed in your compromise, facing line, would still be able to operate 24 hours?
I would still have a problem with the 24-hour operation. I
Okay.
would. I mean, nothing else really in this area is 24, which again goes to Mr. Peters' arguments when he brings up all of these things that are next to residences
Yeah.
and B2s,
It's 24 now, though.
sort of. We have questions about that.
Well,
Cliff
it
was
is.
going to get up here and mention some things, but, well, sort of. I mean, it may operate that way, but we've got questions.
Is the store currently open for business, or is it just the gas pumps that are open? Or does anybody know?
The store,
can ask him
store,
about
I think, is currently open for business, yeah. I mean,
24 hours, I mean?
I
Yes.
believe so. One of the interesting things is there's an Exxon just down the road that the pumps are open 24 hours, but the store is not.
That's
I
what I
think
was
that would be a
but it is
beautiful
open 24
compromise.
hours now.
I mean, quite frankly, if we were to look at a real compromise, because right at I-49, 24 hours. You know, again, that's general commercial. Go all the way down to the Southfield store, the Circle K, that's 24 hours. Again, general commercial. So when it comes to what the residents, if somebody needed 24 hours, they're less than a mile from a 24-hour operation. So it's not like this neighborhood needs the 24 hours. But if there was a compromise, make the pumps 24 hours, but don't open the store 24 hours. I think that would also help with the crime issue, as we see with Rite Aid, because they're open only 7 to 10.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. Any other questions? And we really do appreciate y'all, by the way. I mean, we know that y'all are volunteering for this, and y'all are our citizen guardians, so thank you.
Mr. Remedies has a question for you.
Oh, sure, I'm sorry.
And just one more
You bet,
comment, and
Ron.
I've kind of alluded to this earlier. Just remember, if we move the store over, our problem does not go away, because the residents that live on Edgemont in the townhomes will fill our audience and make the same arguments you are about
Why?
how they don't want, they were here,
Where are we encroaching upon them? Now,
when you
the,
move closer to the town, I'm looking at it on the aerial view now, there's a set of townhomes behind that, or
you
there's
cannot
another.
move closer to the townhomes, because keep in mind, Circle K already has this corner.
Yes, I'm talking about moving, I'm just making the simple statement that when we move it closer to that neighborhood.
You don't move it closer to that neighborhood. If anything, the current plan moves it closer to that neighborhood, because it moves it down Piermont. Remember, Circle K has that corner right now. So either you move it a little bit, I wish I had the current, in other words, we're not moving it to the corner of Edgemont. Circle K doesn't even have that property. Right now, there's a Capital One ATM, I think Capital One, correct me if I'm wrong, but there's an ATM that owns that property.
That was one of the ideas that we saw today. So it's just not as simple as moving it toward the other residents there.
But we're not recommending it moves that way. I mean, we would support Edgemont in that regard if it moved and encroached on them. This, and nothing I'm saying, and nothing anybody else here is saying, moves it towards Edgemont or anybody else. If anything, it keeps it right where it is. At worst, it takes over the Winder Dermatology Clinic, which is half of that property that they want, not the whole thing. So at this point in time, I mean, whoops, hold on. Do I need to do something with this light? Okay. So I know I love you to death, Ronnie, but I am completely lost. I think on the map
we were showing
we're
a
different.
photo earlier and suggested that if they took the ATM machine once the lease
Yeah, it was
expired.
proposed to go down that way.
Yeah.
Well, I have not even
Okay,
heard
that's-
that as a
No, I'm
possibility.
saying, but you're
We've
saying
even-
none of us have
Yeah.
suggested that. That is incorrect. It was suggested to us to move it down.
Okay.
But I just wanted to make the comment. that
I
it's not
would,
as-
honestly, quite frankly, throughout this experience, and with all due respect to Circle K, if they decide not to even be there anymore, I believe somebody else will come in and make that corner pretty, and of course, we will hold them to the SBI 6 and everything else. We're not opposed to development, and I cannot express that enough, but we want to make sure that there is the right development. And again, we've talked to somebody that is interested in coming in because their rent is too high in the current business area that they're in. And so, we just want the zoning. And again, it's already there on the piece of paper. The residents are prepared to take this all the way. And so,
Thank you very much.
again, we appreciate y'all.
Thank you. All right, is there anybody with the applicant that would like to do a rebuttal?
Tim Peters, Real Estate Development Manager for Circle K Stores, 541 Slattery, Shreveport 71104. I tried to take some notes and go down this. They've introduced a lot of subjects that I didn't bring up, but Shreveport, Louisiana was a very, very marginal market for us. About 3 years ago, the parent company said, why are we even operating in Shreveport? Well, a new division president in Pensacola thought that this was a market that was worth saving. I was hired and I was brought in here to develop a plan to regenerate this market. This plan, I was specifically instructed that we have to make sure the first 3 or 4 stores that we get rebuilt work. These are the 3 stores we want you to try to do. Uri and Southfield, Line and Olive, and Line and Piermont, because we knew these stores could be successful. The success of those stores will provide the impetus for the parent company to give us capital to do another 13 stores in Shreveport. Those stores are located all over the city. This is the first phase, and hopefully, it was a 5-year plan, and I've been here 2 years. Hopefully, if we can get this to happen, this is what the results will be. We will go from 20 to 25 stores. 5 of them will be brand new. 8 will be complete teardowns and rebuilds that bring in brand new state-of-the-art steel underground tanks, new softer lighting that, of course, benefits neighborhoods by reducing the amount of lighting intrusion. It's going to, almost every one of these sites will have on-site detention. Shreveport has a terrible water problem, storm water problem. We will go from 240 to 354 employees. That will be an increase of 9 managers. And these bigger stores, yes, they make more money. I don't know when profit became a bad word in the United States, but some people evidently think it's a bad thing. But profits generate jobs, and profits generate taxes, and profits generate more opportunity. Those 9 managers in these bigger stores, actually 13, will have an advantage of being able to hit their bonuses. Do we not care about people? 75% of our employees are lower socioeconomic with only high school degrees, and we almost exclusively promote from within. Those managers will have a chance to get jobs. We'll have 12 additional assistant managers that aren't here now, 50 new full-time jobs, and another 45 new part-time jobs. This will increase our payroll $2 million. We're planning on investing $35 million in Shreveport. This will take us, excluding government, health, and education, from the 37th largest to the 12th largest employer in the city. Actually, that's in Caddo Parish. It's probably higher in the city. This particular store doesn't make very much money right now. That billboard lease is about 25% of our profit that we currently make. We make $10,000 on that billboard. We've agreed that this billboard can go away if we can get the new store, because at that point the store will make maybe a couple $100,000. This is not a hugely profitable venture for us. The return on investment that we presented to the company is only a 9% return on our investment. We have an internal requirement of having 13 to 15%, but they waived it in this case because of the strategy that was put in place for this store, for this market. If we don't get to operate 24 hours, we lose approximately 15% of our revenue. That drops the return on investment to less than 6%. Our cost of capital is 8%. I don't think there's any business person in here that would invest any money in a project if they weren't going to cover their cost of their investment. So, yes, we want to make some more money. We want to build the company. We want to build a brand, which gets us to the design of the store. I appreciate their efforts to show, oh, look, you've got another store somewhere else that you can put on this site. Well, that's well and good, but that store won't return the retired investment that we would need in order to do the project. Our stores nationwide, we're building a brand. And this brand, people will come to expect certain things that are in a store. If the store is too small, you can't put the merchandise in the store that the customers expect from your brand. This is any brand that does it, whether it's Brookshire's or Rite Aid. When you go into their stores, you pretty well know what you can buy there, what you can get there. And the reason to express and to get what you need in there so that you build a successful business. The code requires doors facing both sides. The SPI 6 forces us to turn the building. The advantage of the plan that we have is that the rear of the building faces a dentist office, and it's behind a fence. The plan that they said would face again the R3, or where the fourplex is. We're not, I can't tell because it's not to scale, but we looked at this site plan, I said before, probably 30 times. We have drawn and drawn and drawn plans. And we conform to not only SBI 6, we conform to the city ordinance overall, without exception. They talk about land use plans. Yes, they're nice to have, but they are a plan. They're not etched in concrete. Whether you can say that there were mistakes made in zoning or not, I don't know that you can say there were, because, as I mentioned, in those instances, this area of Shreveport is some of the most expensive housing in the area. This store has been 24 hours since 1997. Some people say it's had a pass-through drawer. That was the official way it was operated until 2008. At that time, it was not supposed to be used. There have been some people that have told us, including Councilman Jenkins, that he actually used it. If he did, it was because we had an employee that was not following instructions. These are the housing prices in the 700 block on Piermont. Overall, since these houses have flipped, the last time they sold, 1984, 1988, 2010, to these recent sales, they've seen an average increase in value of over 17%. These are some houses located nowhere near the store, one of them in Gilbert. You can see the values that these houses increased. Now the five in green are interesting because these houses were sold before the store started operating 24 hours and before it was expanded. You can see how much more these houses sold for. Do we care only about the financial well-being of people close by, or do we care about the financial well-being of everybody in the city? And everybody in the city includes employees that are coming there. It includes people that come and shop at the store. It includes the nurse on her way back from an ER call in the middle of the night and wants a place to stay. I live across the street from a resident. He couldn't understand why this is an issue because he comes by my store when he's gone to an emergency room call and he stops here on the way home because his wife has 2 new twins. They brought up the crime issue. According to a study of robbery risk factors in convenience stores, and this was done by the American College of Occupational Environmental Medicine, the risk factors for crime in convenience stores are low percentage of high school graduates in an area, high percentage of public assistance in the area, close to large amounts of graffiti, low median rents, older buildings surrounding the store, and a high percentage of single males. Of these risk factors, the highest were being close to graffiti and subsidized housing, age of buildings, and not being in or near a shopping center.
Mr. Peters, I'm going to have to ask you to wrap it up. I'm sorry.
Okay. They introduced an awful lot of subjects that I didn't get to cover, but
Mr. Peters, one moment, please. Madam Chair, move to extend by 3 minutes.
Second.
All right, raise your hand if you want to extend it 3 minutes. All right, you got 3 minutes.
okay, thank you. These are our nearest stores. We have some 18-hour stores, 24-hour stores. This goes over the last 10 years. At Greenwood and Curtis, we had 318. That's 31 a year. Incidents have to do with shoplifting, those kind of things. Our last armed events, if anybody's scared of that, occurred August 8th, August of 2008, occurred at 9:04 in the morning. You can also see the percentage of overnight events. 34% happen at Line and Olive. Line and Piermont, 13% of our events happen. And again, those were shoplifting, those kind of things. These people aren't running out of the neighborhoods and robbing people's houses. Houses get burglarized during the day when nobody's home, according to Assistant Chief Bill Gooden at the City of Shreveport. This robbery actually occurred at the bank where the deposit was being taken. It didn't even occur on site. The FBI says top 10 causes of crime are population density, degree of urbanization, variations in composition of the population, cultural factors, climate, etc. None of these factors exist in this area. In fact, a 30-day report of crime within a half mile of the store location, there's 2 that occurred in the neighborhoods outside this store. That's from the city website. We're going to offer diesel because over the next 25 years, diesel is going to reach 20% of demand. This is what a truck diesel looks like. They have to have high-speed pumps fueled from both sides. This is what our diesel pump looks like. It's not high-speed. They're only on the outside of the pumps. You can't fit a truck in here. I've got a lot of studies that show, this is just one of them, you can't get a diesel truck in this site. This really isn't an urban village concept. This location is 24 hours because there's over 528 cars per day, according to the city, that drive past the intersection line in Piermont. 175 of them go down Piermont to the east every night. The traffic count, we don't increase traffic, we're interceptors. Traffic has dropped from 38,000 cars to 36,000 cars since we've been there. So we don't increase traffic. Again, in closing, the letters that we supported, they are from all over the neighborhood. 75% of the people identified themselves as being from the South Highlands or the Piermont area. They didn't say they lived on Piermont. That's right.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Peters. Question? Mr. Young?
One question, because your letters of support are coming around, and one question I noticed was in there, and I did not notice it in your case, was what kind of signage do you going to have outside? Is it a monument sign? Is it?
It meets the SBI 6 code. It's a monument sign that it's 6 feet high from surrounding land area.
Thank you, sir.
Mr. Remedies?
I'm assuming by looking at the petition you had, just to clear up a point that was brought up, how did you go about getting the signature? Was it when people came in the store, did you ask them to sign the petition?
About 75 signatures came from the store. Another 25 came from Todd Miller that owns Ryland Miller down the street. Mary at Wine Styles, she put a petition in her store. John Perkins put a petition in his store. Robert Bachman put a petition in Maryland's Place. And then I walked around the neighborhood some too.
Yeah. Okay. Just in all fairness, I just wanted to know where the signatures came from. Has the store been open? How long has the store been open for 24 hours? You're showing some dates up there. Do you have a date, like a year, that the 24-hour operation? The
original variance was granted in 1997. It was noted that it was permits were issued and in compliance in 1998. I have emails from Mitch Gladwin, who was the regional operations director from May of 97 to 2012, stating it was a 24-hour operations, and until 2008 it did use the pass-through door, but it was still open. Also from Kim Andrews, our Director of Finance, she's attached the last operating history showing the actual customer count and the sales from midnight to 6 p.m., clear back to 2010, which as far as our records go. The records show that right now we get 50 customers a night. That's 50 transactions. That doesn't mean 50 cars. There's 528 cars that go by the intersection right now, and we get maybe 40 of those because some cars might have 2 people. If this is granted, we saw a 40% increase in overnight traffic at Uri and Southfield. A 40% increase in traffic for this location results in another 20 cars from 12 to 6. We already have 50 cars that might be leaving because we have a cross easement agreement, and the fallacy in the photo of the car leaving, those cars are already leaving right now. He had to take a picture of a car leaving because we have a cross easement agreement with Dr. Winder that allows our customers to go all the way to the end of the property on Piermont to leave and get in. That's not going to change.
I have a couple more. It was also proposed that maybe this project could shift down a little further with the lot next door. And I'm just asking to get your side of that. have you guys looked at purchasing the property and maybe moving the store down to where the ATM machine is next door?
That property doesn't even have as much depth as our current property, it just
Okay, so that's
doesn't
not a
fit.
possibility?
No.
Okay. And then, have you guys looked at putting the door on the corner of the store to maybe satisfy some of the concern with having the door on each side, or is that just not a possibility?
Let me find that drawing.
And while you're looking for that, Stephen, is it possible for them to put the door on the corner to?
We have a store, I saw a store in Memphis where we have a door in the corner. It requires a pretty large redesign on the inside of the store. To do that, it causes some operational issues. You know, trying to find the colored plan.
I guess
Well,
what
basically,
Mr.
my
Ramirez
question is just saying, have
asking-
you guys looked at it as a possibility?
We looked at it briefly before we moved. We have this door here. We looked at moving this. We actually moved this door 15 feet closer. The checkout counter's in the corner. We've had to order a certain kind of low-rise equipment so that generally the cigarettes are behind the cashier. We've had to get them and build special cases to put in at the windows. If we go and do that, then we have to completely redesign this whole corner of the inside of the store. You know, I wouldn't say it's an impossibility, but it would be very difficult.
Okay. So are you guys feel like you've done all you can do to accommodate the
Well-
concerns of the neighborhood? And if you have, what do you intend to do if we said no? I mean,
I think if you really look at where these doors are, we're moving this one 72 feet from where the existing door is, and this door we're moving 102 feet. We're talking semantics here. This isn't going to have any appreciable effect. Because we have a lease on this property until 2066, the history of these kind of stores, and this isn't, I'm not saying this is what's going to happen because I can't tell the future, but the history of these kind of little bitty stores, we ultimately have too much overhead to continue to operate it. Right now, this store barely contributes enough cash flow to justify keeping it open. When it drops below that number, then we have to consider either closing the store and selling it, or closing it and leasing it to an independent operator that more likely or not is not going to take care of the property. Those are our choices. And also, if we don't get it, because, as I said, that billboard contributes about 25% of the profit to this, we'll need to keep that billboard. I think we've moved an awful long way to trying to address everybody's concern. We are talking about moving this building, the door of the building, 102 feet. I've already demonstrated that these people, that the housing in the area has been increasing in value, even though the store has been there and operating in its current trashy condition for 40 years. A brand-new $2.5 million investment will spur other people to invest in the area. It will be more attractive to be there. People can argue urban village all they want. Urban villages, and I've worked all over the country, are generally put in where there's vacant land. It's a lot easier to go in and create an urban village environment where there's vacant land. You can bring people in off the major arterials, and you create a center of the village. And in there you have nice fountains, and you have other things that attract people, and you have high-rise buildings, 3 or 4 story buildings that people live in, and you have businesses on the ground floor. You can see it in Addison. You can see it in, there's one in, several in Houston you can go to. This isn't that kind of area. We can wish and hope it to be that way all you want, but the facts of the matter is this is a commercial center with 36,000 cars a day. This is not a pedestrian-friendly type atmosphere.
I have a question.
New stores are safer, even if they're 24 hours, because there's better lighting, there's better visibility.
All right. We need to go
Please.
to questions instead of,
I have a question. Why is it that you can't let the store Circle K face Line Avenue?
We'll discuss that in deliberations, because it's been answered. It's been answered several times.
Well, we had a plan to face that way before the SBI 6 popped up.
But the SBI 6, we'll do it in deliberation, okay? All right, thank you, Mr. Peters. All right.
A mess.
I just break before we vote.
No.
All right, we need a motion
Real
before.
quick, Mr. Jean, or someone, is this two motions, one for the site plan, one for the zoning change, or is it one motion, one vote? For the site plan and the zoning change, all one in one
It's
vote?
a B1 to a B2 within SBI 6.
Steve?
Basically, when you're doing the rezoning like this, you're taking the site plan and the B1 together. You could
All
separate
together?
them if you wanted to do that, but generally, when you're doing the zoning, your stipulations is tied to the site plan that you
Okay.
submitted or any modifications that you might have. But when you vote, you're voting for that. If you wanted to separate that, that's something that you could do. If you wanted to say, I want to approve the zoning and not the site plan, or I want to do something different, you could do that, but you wouldn't necessarily have to separate your votes, if that's your question.
Okay, yeah, that,
Does that answer?
yeah.
Okay, do I have a motion?
Do we have a discussion, or we have to?
You need a motion,
You
second.
need a
discussion.
motion beforehand, and I can't make a motion.
I'm gonna make a motion to deny.
Do I have a second? No second.
For discussion?
A second. Okay, now I have a discussion.
Everybody's looking at me.
Well, I would just throw out the, the B1 buffer zone is exactly what our master plan is envisioning and is trying to protect. And I really, other than economic development interest, 100% economic development interest, I don't see why we would just throw out that idea, that whole, I mean, like these ordinances are for a reason, they are. And this would put a 24-hour business adjacent to a residential.
Potentially. We don't know if it's
Potentially.
going to be 24 hours or not.
But we know it could be, and we know we're allowing it to be. So if there were a way to approve, like, for example, Dr. Windsor's property as a B2 to give Circle K a bigger lot that's B2, then that would be something that might be more of a compromise, and leave where the fourplexes, leave that as B1 if there were a way to do that.
That's what they're doing.
But that's not what they've asked, and I don't think I can split it up that way.
Well, the fourplex actually stays there as R3.
R3.
R3. It's the property, the two buildings next to
Well-
it, Winder's and the other ones, which,
Okay, well, that's the one I'm talking about, the one next to Windsor's.
Winder.
That, I thought it was
Winder.
Windsor. Is it Windsor?
Winder.
The one, yeah, there, because if you're going, I mean, leaving some type of B1 is what I'm saying. Is that
You can't
not?
say anything.
And if I'm wrong, correct me, because I don't
well,
know.
here's, the only point I want to make is this would not be an anomaly to see a B2. We just, last meeting, had an I1 next to an R residential over off of Newcastle. And so, I mean, it's not out of the norm to have the anomaly. We've had multiple discussions about this SBI 6 district down Piermont and how it's a transitional corridor.
Well, we apparently didn't want that. So
Well, we didn't want-
we're
we
supposed to
didn't
turn
want to
around now
expert-
and vote for it.
Well, we didn't want to expedite it because we thought the UDC was going to handle it. They wanted us to expedite it because they wanted something in place faster. We actually turned down a gentleman's request for a B2 because he didn't have a site plan. Not because he was B2 next to an R, next to residential. We turned it down because he would not give us a site plan. Simple thing. Because we didn't know the impact upon the neighborhood. And that was why we turned it down.
We got a site
We know
plan.
the
In
here.
this case, we have a site plan.
We know the impact on the neighborhood here. We are seeing it today.
But we got an
And-
R3 right there
Right,
that
and
is
I think
buffering it.
the B2 is fine. I think the B2 should be bigger, it should be there, but it should face Line Avenue, it should be a Line Avenue business. I think that would be ideal. I think that's what the master plan in the urban village envisions, and I'm not saying we can just stomp on that and that's fine, but I'm just telling you, I think that's what it's envisioning. I don't think it means that there can't be a Circle K there and it can't be a bigger Circle K. I just don't think it needs to be facing the residential street with no buffer zone.
Okay, let me ask you a question. There's 33.1 feet from the side of the building to the property line. If 30 foot of that was left as a B1 buffer zone, which would accommodate parking, correct? Then would that suffice?
I mean, whatever y'all think. And then the 24-hour thing cannot be ignored. I know that, but it can't. It's kind of ludicrous to ignore it.
But we can't make a decision
No,
on
we
it.
can't, but we can still discuss it.
But it's open, it's 24 hours now.
Right, but it's not facing,
But we don't have a decision on it.
Caroline.
We cannot say,
but we have a site plan approval authority
we don't.
to face Line Avenue or not.
Please, Stephen, can you talk to this and,
Well, the 24-hour is not in front of this body for this, I mean, what I think what you're trying to make some points that is, even though that's not in front of the body, that it is still a germane issue for discussion. The only thing that I think the chair's been trying best to make sure that is not something that this board will be dealing with, when they're not going to be, you're not going to be making any decision today that would allow or disallow the 24 hours.
Right, but we would be making a B2 decision on a site plan with a building facing residential properties and facing
Yes, in the
street
hours that
that's-
are in the B2 now,
That's sort of a back way of,
or slightly, they have extended hours beyond, if you just go by the code, those extended hours are there, but the zoning variance for hours is not really technically in front of you. So if you did not, if that wasn't in front of you, you would take in the extended hours that come along with B2 as part of your deliberation normally.
yeah. Okay, well, I just want
Yes.
to make sure that that the master plan and the urban village concept and all of that does not get lost, because I don't think we're talking about it.
hey, you got to take in consideration of the traffic and everything.
I mean,
It's really
sort of.
not of urban village. He's right.
Well,
It's
it
not
is.
that.
It is. That's how it's zoned. I mean, that's how it's.
Well,
that's how
it got
mapped.
lumped in with the SPI.
And
Go
that may
ahead.
be, but
Stephen, I know we have a motion second on the floor right now, but my question is if it comes to a substitute, not substitute motion, a different motion after this one, would it be within the legal limits of the authority of the MPC to take the last 30 feet and designate it on the east side of the property, designate it to be Zone B1 only?
Yes, you could do that.
I can do that. Or we could
Because
do
what
that.
we've
Ronnie could do that.
advertised, we can go smaller. We just can't expand beyond those limits, but we can reduce it.
Can you show on a map what you're talking about?
Reginald, can you put the site plan, the sketch drawing up? No, do the,
Yes, I can.
on the far right-hand side where the parking lot is, there is a dimension. Go north just a little bit. See that 33 dimension? There's a 33-foot dimension there, and that is what abuts
Why
the
don't you
eastern property line.
Get that, draw it, and put it back on.
He could,
Well, he's pointing to it now, the last 30
Yeah, so
feet that he's
would that be like
pointing
a stipulation? in
yes,
other
it would be a
words? Okay.
step.
Mr. Stipp.
Mr. Stipp.
Yeah, gee, thanks, y'all. Oh, yeah, right here. This is the property line that abuts the R3.
Right,
See that 33-foot dimension?
yeah,
Stip it as 30-foot, B1.
just that property right there,
30-foot, no, all the way down.
all the way down. And
Because
what does that affect the parking?
No, parking can still be used for B1, correct, Alan?
Correct.
Correct. Thank you.
25 feet would be more appropriate.
Okay, thank you.
According to the ordinance.
Interesting, okay.
And you have your B1 buffer.
Anybody else have any,
I'm trying to make a compromise, that's all.
Well, and it's always, it's a huge balance between, the people that live next to the place
Yes,
and looking at it.
absolutely.
But, on one hand, you hear their concern. The other one, do you want it to be one of the gas stations where the beer sign's taped in the window that's filthy, that's not an operator, is the,
That's a valid point. It comes back to a comment that was made several meetings back when there was some opposition to one projects that is one of the premier projects we're talking about in the city of Shreveport right now. And they said, be careful what you're opposed to because you don't know what you're going to get. It's already B2. They shut this thing and bulldoze it down. Anything within B2 could go back in it, correct, Mr. Stephen?
Yeah, if you can get it to accommodate on the site plan.
If you can accommodate on site plans. So you got to be careful what you're against because you don't know what you might end up with.
Or using the existing store and it could be a nasty, filthy gas station and there's absolutely nothing.
It could be, I don't know if pawn shops are B2 or loan places, but I mean, you just don't know what you're going to end up with.
Are pawn shops B2? I
No,
don't think
but-
so. So that's.
But anyway, I mean, you just don't know, and so you
No,
got
but
It could be better too. You don't know that either.
This area is, I mean, everything around it is being redeveloped. I don't think anything that puts a bunch of skanky stuff in the windows is gonna do well there. I think it's gonna all naturally take its course.
They got that cigarette shop.
That tobacco shop.
Cigar shop, not a cigarette shop. So,
Not very
go
nice.
to the liquor store, I'll go to
Not
the
very
cigar
nice
shop.
looking.
Well, they're bulldozing that down, and again, we had a room full of people that didn't want that as well, if you remember the
I
fight
do.
on that.
No, I was in
And
Italy, I
So
think.
typically, no matter what we develop, we have a opposition to it in some shape or form.
Okay, so any more discussion on this?
Well,
the vote.
the site plan separately.
Well, we got
No.
yours on the table. Nobody's made substitutes, so you just want to take care
Unless
of
you
yours.
withdraw
and
it, we
move on.
You want,
Well, I just didn't know if we wanted to discuss the site plan first or what.
I'm not opposed to the site plan.
I mean, I would rather see it I would rather see the store face the main avenue, Line Avenue. I mean, that just makes more sense to me. That's what the community wants, it's what the street wants, it's what everybody wants.
But didn't I hear him correctly when he said that he had the door facing Line Avenue?
I
And
mean,
because
the
of the
whole building.
SB6, we required him to put the door on the side? So
Not just the door, but more like the picture that Mr. Gibson proposed where the lot
But they
is
stated they
facing
couldn't
Line.
get the amount of square footage they need to make this a profitable store.
I don't know if I believe that.
Well, why not believe it? I
I
mean,
mean,
it's-
I just think they could.
I
Well, I
think
mean, if
they
they
look at their
spent
numbers
about
and,
50 grand so far accommodating the neighbors, I think that says,
Well, they should accommodate the neighbors.
and they have made the attempt to.
I mean,
They couldn't answer me when I said it.
I know.
Madam Chair, call for the vote.
All right, any more discussion? So we call for a vote?
Her vote to deny.
We vote.
Unless there's a substitute, I have to call for the vote. All right, I'm going to call for the vote. And it's to deny.
to deny.
To deny?
Yes, you know. I know you don't want to.
No, I don't want to deny. No.
Motion
Fails.
fails. Do I have,
Madam Chair, I make a motion to approve the petition with a 30-foot side setback on the east side of the property and a stipulation that after the term of the billboard expires in 2025, as per the petitioner's information, that the billboard will be removed from the property and the contract will not be extended.
He's out of order.
I'll repeat it if you like. That the petitioner requested that the billboard is under a 2 5-year term frame of renewals already exercised by the
We can
owner of
do
the
it.
billboard. The petitioner has
told
agreed that after those 2 have expired, that the billboard will be removed. They will not extend the billboard timeframe any longer.
I'm sure he's out of order.
Yeah, it's
Do what?
He's out of
allowing
order.
us.
he's not allowed to speak. Stephen, is this something that we can, is something that we can put into the stipulations or not?
I would have to defer to council for a moment if you allow me. 'cause
All right.
That is something. that-
Stephen, can you sidebar with the petitioner real quick?
Yes.
Thank you.
And
We
do
put
we
it in
have
there
a,
because he said he could do it. That's the only reason I did it.
well, let's see if we can.
That's the only reason I put it in there.
Madam Chairman, the gentleman that owns the land that has the lease with him
Yeah, he can do it.
said that he's not gonna renew the lease, so it's gone. He's the one that owns the land.
They lease the land.
Damn.
Circle K leases the land until 20, I wrote it down.
He said he had the contract to sign. That sign that's up there, they got 2 5-year renewals to 2020. I'm saying, he signed the lease, but that guy's okay. He's in control. When he said 10 years is up, it's up. It's up.
I don't even think we even do the billboard, that's up to them.
It does.
Madam Chair?
Go ahead.
I don't think you can do the billboard.
Well, nobody seconded and just under legal, I don't know
All
if we
right.
can enforce it, so I would remove that portion.
Can you repeat your,
The only stip is that there will be a 30-foot, the eastern side of the property, which shows 33 feet 1 inches from the side of the building to the property line, that there will be a 30-foot strip of property there that we reserve for B1.
do I have a second?
We would need a revised legal description submitted by the applicant that indicated that,
With staff approval?
What's up?
Okay.
so that we can forward that on to the governing
I'll
body.
say, we're not gonna have, we're gonna have, just have the B1 butting up to the R3, correct?
Yes.
Okay, I'll second that. Thank you.
Okay, I have a motion with step and a second. Now I'm going to call for the, any discussion, I guess, I don't?
And that includes, so the site plan is as is. That's
Yes.
including the site plan.
Yep. I'm called for the vote. Motion carries. All right, next case. Is there not a case number?
Yes, C62.
Oh, C62-14.
Yeah. Break.
You want to have?
We're not gonna have anybody present this case anyway, so.
All right, I'll take a 5-minute break. They won't talk to me. They all called me beforehand.
They did.
You may have to
Nobody called me.
Everyone called me.
Well, that's not.
this week, and maybe.
I gave them a buffer.
Yeah, the buffer's good.
I got on this thing is
I just think I think they were forced to say
Yeah, so that would only give us a couple of weeks to review it, but we'll see.
okay, I gotta tell
They
you.
told me no.
You go present? Just the first.
Request for
Faces the other way.
30 days.
It's first on, first out. All you gotta do is put stuff in. Cases are here
Should
presented.
be. That is a really.
I know.
That area would be pretty.
First in, first out.
Well, the only way you could be.
Oh, that's just
They said they cannot afford.
You're the first, you're the
Oh,
first.
that's such crap.
It is not.
If they had to, they are not.
I looked at
Oh,
it.
yeah.
They are not.
Y'all calm down. Nancy, be that.
I'm not gonna give it
I
up.
hate to be that little bastard that's gotta come back here 15 more times.
Very
He went to city council.
No, but he's got 15 more he's trying to put in.
Oh, good, very.
You see what I'm saying? He put all them
Most of
dots
them
up
are
there.
great.
Are they like that now?
He's got 15 more dots up there.
15 more dollars.
Okay.
Put 15 more of these.
Hey, hey.
So that,
Now, you can't be influencing this. We gotta hear the
No, that's not the case. That's our own one. You know I love you.
Stored it on her.
No,
And I think the board
love
needs to deny his
you.
application.
You just keep doing your good work. Yes, indeed.
Yeah, what was the deal?
Oh, no,
Supposedly
he's
Circle K is
not.
leasing the land.
Both of
Is
you.
Circle K leasing that land
To
to build it?
66, 2066.
Okay, so they're leasing the land, but Circle K let the guy put the sign up, so Circle K's getting the money. So you're the sign guy, I'm Circle K, he's the guy that owns the land. Me and you got the agreement.
No, what's been up with you?
It says 10 years, bye-bye, no more
What's been
sign.
up with you?
So he tried to say that we're gonna put a stip on it, that the sign goes away.
In
Which
2
in
years,
all-
nobody wants to-
When all, in all legal rights, he could say that, because he's the one applying to us, and he's the one that's got the contract.
But you don't know what the lease agreement is with that sign.
He said it goes up in 10 years.
The Circle K guy says,
Goes up.
we tried to get it down.
And they, thank you, darling. You're a good lady.
Because they want the signs. They didn't come.
Well, they wanted it gone, trying to make the neighborhood happy. The neighbor wanted, who wanted the sign gone, that's what we were doing last time, but they wanted it gone, so they tried to get the neighborhood. We want you to take the sign down. 2 more 5-year extensions. We're exercising that.
So they're not.
That's what he
interested.
said. And he said, we'll skip it, that y'all could, after 2025, when it runs out, that we'll take it down, because we don't have to extend it anymore. And that's what I tried to do. I tried to put it on there for the neighbors to get rid of it, because nobody else has. SB 6 says everything has to be 6 foot or lower.
So it's post SPS 6, like not, you have a grandfather, do you have a grandfather in there?
It's grandfather. Yeah, all that stuff's grandfather. So, understand, those guys could go anything they need to.
I just think if Circle K didn't have a choice, they could make it look good, make the street look great, and Line Avenue. I just think they could, but they're not going to do it.
Well, the problem is, there's not enough room there. Depth room.
They could do whatever they want.
They could go buy that big building.
It's already a custom building. They are squeezing it in all over the place.
If you go to the one on here, if you go to the one on Southfield and Uri, it's great. Turn into it, my friend. I try to turn into it, you can't get into it from Uri because it's got a 90-degree curve around that you gotta get to the pump.
Probably DOTD did that.
But it's hard to get into.
I guarantee you
And
DOTD
this
did.
one with the side deal, Piermont, right in, right out, and they can't cross in 5 lanes, maybe better.
They look at all day.
Rachel,
Taking down trees are down.
That's what my 10-year-old
We're gonna need more coffee. We're gonna need more coffee.
Need a little cookie with the,
We're gonna break in on a good cake, a good meeting, because it's gonna be 8 o'clock when you
you're
go home
always, see,
tonight.
I'm a dark chocolate guy.
Yeah, but
And I didn't see any of that.
I've already requested.
my friend always said, be careful what you ask for. You ask for it.
We're here.
We're
We're
already
into
spending
it
another
now.
50 grand.
Are you kidding? $5 corners in town, they're totally gonna do whatever they That,
It's gotta make dollars
that
and
was a,
cents.
that was a total.
It's gotta make dollars and cents. They ran the numbers.
$25 on that corner, are you kidding? They're
just wanted to be
building
the
up
favorite
everything, that
child.
is the richest corner probably in town.
That's gonna be very nice, and the thing, the door will not be 25 feet closer to where it's gonna be. Let's call,
I like the buffer thing, that was good.
That was a good compromise.
How are you?
we did compromise.
I think that,
We found a way to say yes, and I appreciate it.
I think when you have that many people standing up and
Oh, I
making
know.
arguments, for us to have no discussion, no debate.
I'm glad you.
Right.
Don't
I
start
know
with
it's
me.
Like a favorite child.
No, well, Donnie Tim is never gonna talk to me again.
How are you?
No, no, he won't. He will.
I'm well.
Because he
He's a nice.
I just know there's always more with you.
I know him well enough to know.
Go ahead, lay it on.
He's very nervous.
Really?
Well, he's not acting.
Oh, wait, yeah, I think if y'all just withdraw y'all application.
Alan's gonna be the car, truck, and it's gonna be. Let's mark it out where
I don't see many people left my position. I think y'all keep on.
I only did with the,
I'm real hopeful that,
yeah, but he should listen to very
I don't think I want to hear any more opposition.
That was.
I still think so. A lot of money.
You know she can't influence me.
A little bit more.
I asked you not to have her ever come back again. Yes, I did. You brought her back again.
All right, we ready?
Remember that I've asked you once. This is my second time asking you. Please,
Backyard. It's really historic. I mean, it's kind of an iconic little location.
He said it is.
So anyway,
Thank you, Nancy, for being a goody two-shoes. We've got 2 more deferrals after that. I almost wish I would have voted for you if we're still 1, and I would have looked better.
learn how to collaborate.
I would have looked better, but I didn't want to try the vote. I didn't know if she was going to vote for it or not.
almost
Just to. I did too, just to put it, but then I was afraid that I'd swing it. I think it's a good thing.
What's up, brother man?
Yeah.
It's gonna be a long night.
Cliff's, hey, did you see him?
We'll just make
Go
home
right
clean
past me
next
and
year.
go,
This is
We'll just
easy.
make home clean next year.
that's right.
No, I ducked out really fast. I went straight to
Oh, he didn't even look my way. Cliff was long, he was pissed at me.
He was mad. He was mad. Well, me too. I thought he was on the phone this morning.
I like how they try to call out the new girl.
When?
Twice. Someone took the master plan. I'm like,
Master plan is a,
It is a suggestion.
it's a good guide.
Uh-huh.
It's trying to work this. It is a guide.
It's about, it's a
It's not
building here and
instant
now.
stone, because a lot of chunks of the property that we ever had that conversation.
That's why, until we actually get the Unified Development Code in place, none of that's on the table right now. And we're getting a new mayor that may come in and say, you know what, screw all
Come
this.
anybody, yeah.
I'm not telling you who I'm supporting.
Like Patrick
You like that?
Yes, ma'am.
I like
I told
everybody.
Patrick at the legislation session, when he called me off the side, says,
Well, thanks, and I just pretty much.
Like any more of them?
oh, I like Ollie. I love Ollie. I love Ollie, but and I like the new guy.
All right, guys. Hey, Dale.
I love Ollie.
No, we got to stop.
That's great. Everybody's
I
great.
was on the
Where's
search
Nancy?
committee
Come on.
for all
Oh,
of
Just
this
went to the
money.
restroom.
I'm
I'm not here. I'm at the library. I'm keeping my mouth shut.
I know
5
you
minutes
are.
means 5 minutes.
We'll start the meeting, show them the main business.
We've got our official
Across the street.
lady back.
You
We can
was my
start
dear
one. We have
friend.
four. We got four. Rock and roll.
Show them you're not scared.
All right,
Ivy.
I'm going to officially call this meeting back to order. And we are now on case C 62-14. Charles Grubb. Oh, well, there's a letter.
Standing in Charles's position.
I'm told to stand here. Charles is on a trip someplace. Gary Lash, I'm at 8330 Ashbourne, Shreveport, 71106. The director of the YMCA, and we're asking for a deferral of 30 days to get all our Ts crossed and the house to comply with, and that's probably what the letter is.
It is. All right. So he's asking for a deferral.
Can
I
be
have to
first,
go through
can
the
be first next time.
Get your application in first. That's the name of the game.
Actually, deferred cases come first.
Oh, deferred
But
too.
he's
After the
non-subdivision.
subdivision.
Right.
Okay, right.
Okay, thank you.
Okay.
Any questions?
No.
All right, I have to go through the process. Is there anybody here that wants to speak in favor of this application? Is there anybody here that wants to speak in opposition of this application?
Madam Chair, motion to approve deferral and continue.
Second.
Okay, I'll call for the vote. Did I miss something?
Oh, you know Roddy. Roddy
Colvin
can't,
is-
he can't
Colvin
handle it.
is
What am I supposed to vote on?
It's controversial, you can't vote.
a deferral of,
So like,
Is it too late?
it's too late. It passes, even if you said no. All right, on to the next. Is that just, I didn't mean to be sassy, I'm sorry.
Dale, you missed the controversial case.
No, I did not.
All right, on to the next case, C 6314, Volunteers of America, North Louisiana.
Thank you for your time and consideration. My name is Chuck Meehan. I'm at 254 Atlantic Avenue, 71105. And bless you for what you do. We are here, just for those of you who on the commission who were not here a year ago, we came in September of 2013 on a matter seeking temporary short-term approval to locate a transitional program for homeless veterans at 533 Kirby Place, a program that serves veterans for up to 6 months. We've operated there, and I'm proud to say without any incidents. This facility housed 9 males. We have been full since the time that we opened the program there. We
have a contract through the U.S. Department of Veterans Affairs to serve up to 23 males. The long-term plan, I'll remind those of you who were on the commission last year and to let those of you who are new to the commission, is that we're going to locate this facility permanently on the campus of Hope Connections out on Levy Street. They are in the process of raising the monies to build the facility for this transitional program. The Veterans Affairs Department, the Department of Veterans Affairs, is essentially urging us to expand the program sooner rather than later. And so what we're proposing to do is to relocate to the Mid-City Hotel property, leasing the 3rd floor and using the 4th floor there at that property for our transitional program for homeless veterans. It will be males only. Mid-City provides 30 contiguous units on 1 floor that can be used for private rooms and for office space. The space provides for restricted access both through the front door on Jordan as well as the 3rd floor itself. And the facility, as the current facility is, will be staffed 24 hours a day. And we're here today to request approval to do that.
Thank you. Anybody questions?
No, I just want to commend you, Chuck. Just keep doing what you're doing, expanding programs, because you all really are doing a fantastic job.
Thank you.
I have a question.
Mr. Remedies?
How did you know I have a question?
Because you raised your hand.
Oh, that's a good thing. I was sorry, I was caught up in.
That's how that works, Ronnie.
They are on the corner there.
I have a question for Stephen. I just want to understand what they're changing it to, from a short term, like motel style, to more long term. That's all they're asking for, right?
Right.
Okay.
It's just,
Why do you have the alternatives here then? All these,
well, actually, what's happening here is, the reason Wallace is there is you're actually modifying an existing E. So you want to keep the E's that are already there, that are approved, and you're just expanding to allow this use. So that's why we're repeating all the things in the previous case, so that we don't want to do away with them, because
okay, thank you.
that's functioning well right now.
Okay, that's why I wanted to make sure.
Right,
Thank you.
so
Young,
the things that are changing would be, as it relates to these services for the lodging, he talked about some uses that happen on the 4th floor. Those kind of uses already occur in the facility.
Thank you.
Different is this longer stay. It's not more of a transient type of stay. Mr. Clark, I think, had something as well.
Mr. Clark?
I just had a question, because I was listening very carefully to Chuck, and once you all move out on Levy Street, will this continue to be a facility that will service homeless veterans? Will all of the services that you provide to homeless veterans be out on Levy Street?
Well, we'll continue to operate the facility that the commission approved, which is on the corner of Highland and Jordan. We have 56 beds there.
Right.
But this particular program will relocate. We don't have any plans to continue at Mid-City at this time.
But you have no idea how long this program will stay at Mid-City, so just
Well,
requesting permanent approval.
I'd be guessing, I'd be making a guess on when Hope Connections would be able to raise the money, but we're looking at no more than 2 years
Okay.
maximum. But I don't really want to be held to that.
I was just curious, it's not a problem.
Any other questions? Thank you.
Thank you.
Anybody else that wants to speak in favor of this application? Is there anybody that wants to speak in opposition? Okay, seeing none, do I have a motion?
So move.
Second.
Second? Any discussion? Call for the vote. Motion carries. Case number C6414, Marty T. Johnson, Sr.
Pass these revisions out real quick.
Just hand it. Yeah, thank you. Phil, get it to us.
Good afternoon. I'm Ricky Wood with Polaris Services, 3602 North Market Street, Shreveport, Louisiana, 71107. What he's passing out, based on site plan comments from the staff and all, is a revision for this site showing a proposed building 36 by 86 by 11 and a half feet tall, approximately 3,100 square feet. Previously, the site plan showed a ratio of one space to every 300 square feet. It was recommended that this site plan show one space for every 200 square feet, and at the very most, one per 250. So we've done a little finagling, showing 16 spaces on here. Still have quite a bit of landscaping from this area. There is an existing building on one lot that is in the shape of a residential type building. I do not know if it would be used as a house. And the other lot, as it was vacant lot with a brand new metal building, concrete slab to go on there. And he was asking for the zoning, I guess permanent zoning, to accommodate this building. I think a B1 would satisfy that. I also believe there was a temporary zoning of R1DE across the street for his community counseling. Building would be used for bookkeeping, several offices, and habitation of those documents.
Have you had a chance, Stephen, has the staff had a chance to look at this new site plan?
First time we've seen it.
Oh, that's not good. Second of all, it looks like, Stephen, I'm sorry, it looks like everything around it is an R1D, except for the B2?
That's correct.
Can you explain the R1D-E? What's the exception again?
The one across the street, I believe they, correct me if I'm wrong, is that like a counseling center? Is that what that is now?
No, the church with
A church, yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
So you were asking to go from an R1D to a B1.
Well, we asked, we had an alternative. The B1 would have been the most, but asked for this particular lot. I think the application was also for an R1DE as well.
That's
For a
correct. He has that as an
community center, office, clerical.
Stephen, so he's saying either a B1 or a R1DE?
Yes.
Do you find a problem with you guys not seeing this site plan before we do?
Yes, ma'am. We really need to make sure we have a chance to look it over before the meeting.
Thank you. Any questions for Mr. Wood? Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Anybody else in favor of this application? Anybody in opposition? All right, I will call for a motion.
Motion to defer.
I hear a motion to defer and continue.
Second.
And I have a second. Any discussion on that?
Just real quick, I do agree that the staff needs to look it over and make sure it doesn't have issues. He did comply with the 1 to 200 square feet, but I just think they need time to look over the new site plan.
All right.
Well, could we, so that we don't have to deal with it again, could we allow the staff to approve, with staff approval?
Do we want to go, but we're not deciding if it's an R1D or a B1, R1DE or a B1.
Well, what Ronnie's saying is, could we say contingent, we will approve it contingent upon staff's approval that the new site plan meets the requirements of zoning?
We need
Can you
another
legally do that,
motion.
Stephen?
If it's the pleasure of the board to do so, I mean, this is something that I just don't have enough time to really, I don't see any issues. I see,
Well, we're not asking you to approve,
Yeah.
I wouldn't ask you to do that, Stephen.
Not right now,
I think
but
that's
what we're saying
yeah.
is if we give you the, and if you saw an issue, then it would be deferred.
because I see a space right now, I don't know how you get to it. So,
Parking in front of the
at number 16, I'm not sure how you do that, so there's some questions about this plan that I would sure like to vet.
Let it go then.
I'll just let it go, and I'll just go with it.
Okay, so the motion was to defer and continue. We have a second. I call for the vote. Motion carries. Case number P1614, Michael Goldman.
Madam Chair.
Yes.
While the petitioner, in lieu of petitioner, this is the case that we suspended the rules on earlier.
Oh, it is.
Stephen, which we do this one first or the other one first?
This one first.
This one?
Yes, you need to do this first,
Yes.
then you would vote on the other case.
Andy Craig, Moore and Associates, 6025 Buncombe Road, Shreveport, 71129. I don't have anything to add from what we said before, but I'll be glad to answer any questions if you have time to think about it. Anyway.
After all that, refresh my memory.
Well, it's an easy one. It's just.
Oh, no. We don't buy that. We gotta hear it again.
It's one lot we're divided into two for the owner and his, going to build a house for his daughter.
That's right.
They told you it was easy.
Madam Chair?
Yes.
Mr. Craig, can you look at the plan and explain the meaning of that 100-foot private sewer system setback line?
Yes, as I said in the previous case, we're not going to put a private sewer system in. It's going to be connected to the public system. If we did put a private, it would have to be 100 feet from, at least 100 feet from the lake. That's why the lake shore, water's edge, that's why that servitude is in there. Whatever happens to this property in the future, they cannot do anything with private sewer inside of that.
So you said it's going to be connected to a public system?
Yes, there's a city, we found there's a city force main across North Lake Shore, and it will be a public sewer connection.
That's new information. We did not have that in the application before. I believe it showed a...
That's right, they have not applied for it yet, but they've done it in the area recently.
Let me tell you why that's
Previously.
significant, is that the comments that you have from Russ Weiss's office are all talking about the fact that if you have a private system, that effluent could get into the water source, which is the drinking water source for the city of Shreveport. That's why his concerns were based off of that. If we end up going to a sewer system that's tied into a force main, then those issues are no longer a part of our concern. But if it remains a private sewer system, that is a real issue.
And it's simply resolved by stipulating that it must be those.
I think
residences
if you
must be tied into the force main.
stipulated that it must be tied into and is that a city of Shreveport, or is that whose force main?
It is a city of Shreveport force main. There is a community water system, Lakeview
Right,
water system.
I knew the water system was
But the sewer
community.
is cities.
I think if you stipulate that that be tied into
We would be fine with that.
the city of Shreveport sewer system.
That is the plan.
Mr. Sept? Okay. Any other questions for Mr. Craig? All right. I just have to go through this. Anybody else in favor of this application? Anybody in opposition? All right, so I'll call for this vote and we'll go back to the other one.
Madam Chair, make a motion to approve with stipulation that the sewer system on those two properties must be tied into the city's force main.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. If there's no discussion, I'm gonna call for the vote. Which one is it? Motion it passes. Okay, case number SB 4014.
Andy Craig, Moore and Associates, 6025 Buncombe Road, Shreveport, 71129. Now that we're legally, or on the way to being legally zoned, we can talk about the subdivision plan.
All right.
I'll be glad to answer any other questions.
All right. Anybody have any questions for Mr. Craig? All right, Mr. Craig, thank you. Is there anybody here in favor of this application? Is there anybody here in opposition? Hearing none?
Motion to approve.
Second.
If no discussion, I call for the vote.
Those dips. No. Absolutely not.
Motion carried.
I ran out of them.
You can't yet. All right, on to the next case. C 6514, Ivan Smith Properties.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
My name is Frank Weber, architect. I'm with GMA Architects, 900 North Rock Hill Road, St. Louis, Missouri, 63119. Here to represent Ivan Smith Properties. The applicant has an existing furniture warehouse. The proposed project is a one-story expansion of approximately 80,000 square feet. The existing concrete truck court will also be expanded to the north, and it's currently on the east side. That will have 5 equipment doors and 9 dock doors and a few additional trailer parking. The clear height in that warehouse is 30 feet, and it is also primarily for furniture products.
And you don't have any neighbor opposition, do you?
Not that I'm aware of.
Crows.
Stephen, anything on this? Just fun?
Well, I think there's one thing that you need to be aware of, and I was just about to pull that up in the ordinance. Is they do indicate a aggregate surface driveway on this plan.
Yes.
I can't hear you.
Aggregate,
Okay.
aggregate surface driveway,
Okay.
gravel.
Is that on there?
It's on there. And I was just about to pull up the ordinance site that requires that to be hard surface. So they would have to get a waiver of that through the ZBA for that not to be hard surface. So that's not really in front of you. And I just want to be clear that, because if you were to approve it, I wouldn't recommend that you approve the gravel surface, since the ordinance does require it to be hard surface.
And, yes, Mr. Young?
I know we have a lot of clay subsoil around here, or soil. Hey, tell me if I'm wrong, in the genre of what we're supposed to be doing under the master plan, wouldn't gravel actually be better than pavement in a case like this where you would allow water to permeate into the ground?
Well,
I'm just curious, I mean.
Well, impervious paving is something that's recommended. It's not currently in our ordinance. We have an ordinance right now that says
that it has to be paved.
That it has to be.
But we could make a variance.
No.
I think the ZBA could.
The ZBA could.
Yeah. This is, actually part of, I understand two things that are happening with this. They're doing some periodic maintenance, and you can.
Yes, if I could explain, there is a dock door on that side, and that is right next to the battery charging area. So when the forklifts need servicing, they will pull them to that end, and then the service contractor will come up either with a pickup truck or his van, service the forklifts, and then leave. And so that's essentially the reason. Now, Arco Construction, the contractor on the project, also met with the fire marshal, and that's why you've got this hammerhead that extends so that the fire department has access to all sides of the building.
And that was the comment that we received about the aggregate paving actually came from the fire prevention, who had a concern about it, the aggregate paving, where they would be utilizing their emergency vehicles.
Big fire trucks.
So that's the impetus. We asked feedback from the various departments, to just telling you what the feedback is. I don't know any reason.
You said the fire department has a problem with gravel?
They don't like dragging their fire hoses across rock.
Well,
they need to drive
they
those
just
fire trucks
requested
across a solid surface in the event of a fire.
Stephen, as the case is presented to us right now, it doesn't comply with the ordinance because it doesn't show paved parking, correct?
Right, that one aspect, I think if you read the plan, I don't think you see anything else in this plan that is an issue here. That is the only thing in this plan that I just
So the applicant's going to have to go to ZBA to get the variance on it.
In my opinion, yes. I don't know that you could vary the requirement on this requirement for hard surface. Now, that's something we may end up doing later on when we're dealing with the new code. We may have, and I expect to have a lot of different alternatives.
Were you aware that you probably have to go to the ZBA?
Yes.
You are?
Yeah, and I have Mark Snow.
Well, you'll have your
Just
turn.
say.
I can't address it.
Yes, you can. So what I don't see any big issues, and I don't think Stephen does either.
I don't either. I just have to point out
Let
to
y'all
you.
get to the ZBA, and then y'all can work that out,
I asked him to.
because it's outside of our genre. You can, just a second, you can,
Any other questions? Thank you, sir. Anybody else in favor?
Yes. I'm Mark Snow with I. Finner Jolly McClellan, 3003 Knight Street, Suite 120, Shreveport, Louisiana, 71105. I take exception to the fact that y'all calling this parking. The ordinance says that parking has to be paved. You know, this is not a parking lot. This is an aggregate, infrequent use to do service to the forklifts. It's what we were told by the owner is this would occur approximately about once a year. It would also be used for there's a significant amount of racking system in this warehouse. It's automated racking system, and we'll be doing some expansion. It'll be used to move the racking system in during construction. And should there ever need to be maintenance during, it's several years of period, it would also be used for maintenance for that purpose. So it's a very infrequent use access road. In addition to, it does provide access by a fire truck to that portion of the building. When the owner, with Ivan Smith, met with the fire chief, they said, we want an aggregate roadway. In that meeting, subsequent, I understand with Stephen Jean that it's been provided they want a paved surface. I would say that we've put a lot of roadways in for fire access that are aggregate. And so I want to make clear this is not a parking lot. It's an infrequent maintenance road and fire truck access. So I guess I take a little exception to the characterization that it's a parking lot. So, and maybe we...
a good way to resolve it is it's not part of the configuration of the square footage requirement for the size of the building, what you need anyway.
Correct.
This is something you're doing in addition, so...
Right.
Tell me if I'm totally wrong. You could have omitted it from the print completely and then just put it in at your leisure, and it wouldn't have been an issue for us.
Well, I think we need to show it for fire access.
Fire access.
Well, this is for the ZBA anyway, correct?
Not.
Well, I wasn't quoting this as parking. I was off-street loading and truck loading facilities, or is one of the places I was looking. You're not doing anything offloading. Yours is strictly...
Yes, and we brought confusion to that because initially the owner told us that there could be a single unit truck back up there. That's incorrect, and we brought the confusion initially, and we subsequently, I guess, visited with them, but we're the ones that initially brought the confusion to them. It's not to be used for truck offloading. It's to be used for maintenance activity on the forklifts and the rack system. It's not, and the fire truck. And so, you can put a stipulation, it's not to be used for truck access. And the owner, we got back with the owner because we were told him it was going to have to be paved. He said it's a maintenance road only. He was very adamant about that.
Well,
Go ahead.
I'm just looking in the sections of the ordinance, and I understand what you're calling this. I'm looking in the area where it's truck loading facilities, and under maintenance it says drainage and surfacing shall be properly drained, surfaced on concrete, asphalted concrete, or asphalt maintained in good condition, free of weeds, dust, trash, and debris. That's what we would. Now, we have allowed surfaces that were part of an industrial area that were used for pipe storage and things of that nature to be gravel. It was not a part of any required parking. We've done industrial uses like that where they're used for this. What was a particular concern with me was when we began to talk about emergency vehicles. And Mr. Mims, correct me if I'm wrong, that was actually a development review team comment?
It was a
See
development
that, so
team comment.
seems to be some conflicting information coming from the fire prevention, because that was actually indicated as an issue. So, you know, that's why we brought it up. That's the only issue. We think this is an excellent plan. They've been extremely cooperative with us. The first couple of plans I think we had submitted, we asked to have them in this format, which is a little bit easier for the board to read. They were very accommodating. They provided us with all the information. This is the only issue I think that we're still discussing with them.
So we can approve this. If they need to, they can go to the ZBA, get their variance, and move forward.
I believe that that's true. You're not really approving the asphaltic surface.
That's right. If they need it, they can do it if they need it, yeah.
You can clarify that in your motion if you like.
Any other questions for Mr. Snow?
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Snow. Anybody else to speak in favor of this application? Is there anybody in opposition? Hearing none, I will ask for a motion.
Make a motion to approve.
Second.
Motion to approve, second, any discussion? I call for the vote.
Yours didn't go UTC. I swear to God. My job now.
Keep me on the straight and narrow.
Hang on.
Somebody didn't press it.
Which you,
Betsy, she's getting press it for you. All right, you're good. You're good.
Did I do it?
Yes, ma'am. You're good.
Motion carries.
Madam Chairman,
Yes.
that motion and approval, was it pending that a variance is obtained by the ZBA?
No.
The hard
No
surface
step.
parking requirement?
There was no step.
So they don't have to do it?
That's the ZBA puts it on them.
ZBA won't know unless you require them to do it.
Well,
You can't
you
reconsider.
were not approving the gravel drive as part of that motion. I guess that's the clarification the staff is asking.
I didn't hear a step. And I didn't hear I did not hear any discussion about it.
Okay.
Case number P1814, Moore and Associates. Oh, wait, yeah.
Yeah. Come on down, Andy.
Madam Chair and rest of the commission members. My name is Bob Dunstan, and I'm here with National Heritage Academies out of Grand Rapids, Michigan. We build charter public schools and are looking to build a new school off of the Burt Kroons